During my time at university, I was called for jury service. I was assigned juror number 12, and my fellow jurors looked like this. In the courtroom, I was handed a piece of paper with the names of the defendants and what they were charged with. Nikolaos Pantasis and Artem Elizai were charged with manufacturing illegal drugs. However, only one defendant was in the dock at the time of the trial. I believe it was Elizai. He was an Albanian man who had arrived in the UK 9 days before his arrest. His only form of identification was a stolen Italian ID card. He did not speak English and required a translator. The prosecution, an older, portly gentleman who looked like Vernon Dursley, opened with the testimony of a police officer. The officer had been on a stakeout mission for a completely unrelated case in a street in Rotherham. Throughout the day, he and another officer would sit in an unmarked police car watching a house for activity. However, throughout the day, a black car would occasionally pull up to a nearby house, and two young men would briefly go around the back, emerging several moments later and driving off again. Towards the end of the day, as the young men had driven away for another round of this routine, the officers decided to investigate, first knocking on the door, then checking the letterbox. It smelled strongly of cannabis. A few days later, with a warrant obtained, police raided the house and found that every room in the house had been filled to the brim with cannabis plants. The photos provided were almost comical. There were plants in the kitchen, bathtub, and even the ensuite toilet. The cannabis in total had a street value of roughly £115,000. One of the defendants, Pantasis, was in the house at the time of the raid. He confessed immediately, hence why he was not present at the trial. The prosecution also provided a photograph of an iPhone belonging to Pantasis. On screen was a screenshot of a selfie of two men wallpapering a room. One of the men was the defendant Elizai, the other was, I assume, Pantasis. On a separate piece of paper was a photo of the inside of the cannabis farm. The prosecution argued that the wallpaper patterns matched with the wallpaper the two men were putting up in the selfie. Therefore, the prosecutor said, Elizai knew of and was assisting the illegal cannabis farming business that Pantasis was running because he had been inside the house and seen the comical amount of drugs in there. The defense, led by a young accented woman who did not wear the lawyer's wig, defended her client with the following argument. The plainclothes officers did not specifically see Elizai enter the house, only disappear behind it for a few moments at a time. It was entirely possible that Elizai was just a stooge, who had no idea what was going on in that house, and was just getting paid to drive Pantasis to and from wherever he needed to be. The defense also provided photographs of Elizai's home address in a nearby street, showing rooms in the house which had similar wallpaper to that of the drug farm. She argued that the selfie was not taken in the drug farm, but in his house. The prosecution asked, given that there were 5 beds in the house, and all of them single, for 6 registered occupants, where did Elizai sleep? The defense confirmed that Elizai and Pantasis shared the same bed, though I do not know if that means they slept together or if they just took turns using it. As far as I remember, those were the full arguments both for and against the defendant's guilt. After several hours of deliberation, the jury voted 10-2 against the defendants. I do not know what their punishment was, but a friend of mine who works in probation said that it would probably be between 2 and 4 years in jail. So by the time this video comes out, they have probably served their sentences and are back on the streets of Rotherham. They probably weren't deported because immediately after the jury announced their verdict, Elizai's lawyer announced his intention to claim asylum. And this was in 2021, so it was probably granted.